Right, everyone. Welcome back to Daily Update, my 1000 days challenge. This is day 585, so let's get things started. All right, so first and foremost, in terms of the balance wise, remain the same. I didn't enter any new trade setup right now, and 4 hour wise looks to be choppy. I'm not entering any short setup, neither am I entering for a long. And for experimental setup, like I mentioned, I've already put it on hold right now, reviewing the processes and steps. I'm going to re-implement the experimental setup again. So likelihood it will only take in effect probably next week or even the starting of next month itself. So that's something to bear in mind. So I'm definitely reviewing how I should go about approaching in terms of experimental trade setup, and also reviewing the trades that I've been doing over the past 500 over days, which is close to 2 years itself. All right, so beyond that, what I would say is that in terms of the US market itself, definitely we do see further retracement. So right now, definitely the commodity market is doing extremely well, especially with the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and also the various other countries that's being involved on the sideline as well. All right, so yeah, so overall the equity markets definitely will be definitely strongly hit, especially when there's time of crisis at this current moment in time. But to me, actually sees it as an opportunity for me to buy in. But right now, I'm actually just looking at potentially where are the support coming in and where I'll be buying into position for both S&P 500, Nasdaq, and also particular stocks that I've been looking for at the same time. So yeah, that's definitely a good buying opportunity for, in my personal opinion, but not so much for China tech stocks or even China stocks in general. So my perception for China stock has changed, not because of the fundamentals of the China or the tech stocks that I believe in, but rather to say, I would say the environment and the way the valuation models that I would go into consideration for China tech stocks would vastly has changed in the past 500 over days. And reason being, like what I mentioned before, is reason of how the politics works in terms of China-wise and in terms of the US-wise. So not to say that China politics is bad, not to say that US politics is great, but I would say that in terms of equity markets-wise, it does favor the US market because they do practice so-called capitalism in their hard form, and that very much favors the equity markets in that sense. On the other hand, for the Chinese market itself, the way how they frame how politics is going, is more going for so-called a more socialist kind of socialist kind of environment or some society. And in that particular perspective, it doesn't make much of a sense for them to actually have stronger support or in terms of the equity markets itself. So that's something that I've actually learned, that even though both companies could be technically valued the same, but people may value it differently. In my perspective, or an example that I would like to share is perhaps like how you having the same sandwich, you will probably price it at maybe 10%, at maybe 1%, 2% of your monthly income. But on the other hand, on the flip side, same sandwich in other countries whereby they are vastly malnourished and poor, they may view food as a much more thing that they'll be willing to actually pay a much bigger percentage of their share, and that gives rise to the difference in the perception, even though the product exactly is the same. But that doesn't mean that just because you value it at $1, it cannot be valued at more in other person perspective from a different country, depending on the situation and environment. So that's my perception of how it's changed over the 500 days itself. So that's definitely a hard lesson learned. So, but I'm still not selling out simply because the risk to reward isn't really much there. Like even if I do sell out, I don't see much of a good market to enter in, be it the US market or any other crypto market in that sense. So for crypto market wise, similarly, I'm holding it on hold. I have no issues with holding it for long-term hold, especially as my part of my hold. Yeah, okay. So I guess in terms of the last thing, consolidation was set up just yet, simply because right now the price action still looks rather choppy. Okay, so like what I mentioned, the price action still looks kind of choppy. I don't see any good setup right now. So I'm just staying put until there's a clear break above the 20 exponential moving average, in which case there could be potential long setup if you're looking in terms of shorter time frame. But until that has formed, I would say I still lean towards a bearish momentum. But if the decrease in terms of bearish momentum wise, I don't see much of a good opportunity trading on shorter time frames, say on a 1 hour and 30-minute time frame. And unless you're trading on even shorter time frames, say on a 1 minute, 5-minute kind of time frame, then yeah, perhaps there could still be opportunities. But for me, because I'm still trading on a slightly larger or longer time frame on the day trading side of things, I don't see much of a good opportunity right now. Otherwise, that's more or less about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop by your comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.